Hello, everyone. Welcome back. Humans once lived in a time with no electricity, no fire, and no lights at night, only moonlight and the open sky. So, when did we first learn to generate electrical power? Listen to the full story to find out, and if you enjoy it, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel to hear more great stories. Chapter 1: Darkness Before Light. In a peaceful valley where mist entwines with the babbling stream, humans lived amid the darkness of untamed nature. Under the deep blue sky, they sought shelter in dry rock crevices to escape the rain, erected simple thatched huts to ward off the sun, and kindled flickering fires to drive away the night's chill. Fire was the first savior, but it was still only warmth, a small flame in the long night, unable to command the magic of artificial light. Before electricity existed, humans learned to survive by three basic means: seeking food, sheltering from nature, and keeping warm with fire. By day, sunlight provided abundant light and warmth. By night, only distant stars and dying embers remained. In that realm, humans grew more attuned to darkness than ever before. Keen ears listened for the breath of wild beasts. Eyes accustomed to the dark scanned for shapes at the mountain's edge. Sturdy hands gripped stones, ready to fend off any threat. They lived in clans, gathering around fires, sharing tales of thunder gods and eerie phantoms in the night. In the earliest civilizations, from the Nile Valley to majestic Mesopotamia, people wove legends of mighty Zeus and storm-wielding Thor, deities believed to govern natural electricity. Thus, darkness ceased to be a mere enemy and became the fabric of myth, a curtain behind which humanity began its dream of conquering light. Before electricity existed, humans learned to survive by three basic means: seeking food, sheltering from nature, and keeping warm with fire. By day, sunlight provided abundant light and warmth. By night, only distant stars and dying embers remained. In that realm, humans grew more attuned to darkness than ever before. Keen ears listened for the breath of wild beasts. Eyes accustomed to the dark scanned for shapes at the mountain's edge. Sturdy hands gripped stones, ready to fend off any threat. They lived in clans, gathering around fires, sharing tales of thunder gods and eerie phantoms in the night. In the earliest civilizations, from the Nile Valley to majestic Mesopotamia, people wove legends of mighty Zeus and storm-wielding Thor, deities believed to govern natural electricity. Thus, darkness ceased to be a mere enemy and became the fabric of myth, a curtain behind which humanity began its dream of conquering light. When the first storm crept across the sky, lightning flashed like silver swords, tearing through the night to reveal the thunder's reverberating roar. Folk understood it as a divine threat, the cosmos growling its power. But over time, the brave observed more closely. Placing a hand on a rocky outcrop as thunder cracked, they felt static electricity build in the air, making hair stand on end. This marked the beginning of a long journey. From viewing lightning as the supernatural, humans became curious about invisible forces of attraction and repulsion. Vigorous rubbing of seal bones and squirrel pelts produced tiny sparks. An odd experience, both terrifying and fascinating. Rubbing amber with animal fur caused it to charge and attract the fine hairs. The ancient Greeks named this phenomenon electron, meaning amber in their tongue. They did not yet know how to control it, but carefully recorded their observations and passed them down, planting the seed for the science of electricity. In the Bronze and Iron Ages, people had learned to mine ore, forge weapons, and build temples. Yet true illumination remained a luxury. Oil lamps burned for hours, casting light on relief carvings and allowing priests to read scriptures, but the choking smoke stung the eyes. Red-hot ceramic shards glowed faintly in smithies, yet not enough to light a path through a pitch-black hut. Humans still rose with the sun and slept with its setting. From Babylon to India, astronomers built observatories, charting the movements of stars, eclipses of sun and moon. Each clay tablet etched with silver dots against the dark sky preserved cosmic mysteries. Nevertheless, even after learning the language of the heavens, mankind could not breach the nightly boundary of darkness. By classical Greece, philosophers began to ask, what is light? Why does darkness exist? Empedocles posited that light traveled instantaneously, and our eyes captured minute particles from objects. Euclid conjectured that light moved in straight lines. Aristotle believed that rays emanated from the eyes to touch objects. These tangled, conflicting theories nonetheless sparked the desire to comprehend the nature of light and shadow. Humans no longer merely coexisted with darkness, but yearned to master it, to make it an ally rather than an enemy. Amid the silent night, the flickering fire brought warmth and a hint of magical glow. Fire was not electricity, but it shaped humanity's thinking about creating an active energy source. The first flames were treasured, passed from hand to hand like legends that ignited hope. Whenever a fire died, it urged human curiosity to burn brighter. This wonder drove nomadic tribes to carry embers on their migrations. They understood. Safe sleep came only when the fire still burned. The warmth of the flames made dreams more pleasant, banishing the blackest dark. In the rosy glow, elders told fairy tales. Children traced fantastic shapes on the ground. Couples whispered sweet kisses beside the crackling logs. Millennia passed, yet humans had not yet grasped electrical power. But from the earliest sparks of static electricity, the fierce crash of thunder, and the flicker of campfires, they sowed the seeds of the next revolution. Now, close your eyes, hear the streams murmur, feel the lingering warmth of the dying fire, and await the next chapter, when humanity will awaken to the creeping of unseen electrons, and one day, artificial light will awaken the world. In the small rooms illuminated by flickering candles, 17th-century scholars began to tap their pens on parchment, diligently recording the strange phenomena they observed. From ancient pieces of amber to glass instruments spinning in their hands, it seemed everything was revealing the first clues to an invisible yet powerful force: electricity. In 1600, in quiet London, William Gilbert, the royal physician under Queen Elizabeth I, published De Magnete, conceptualizing observations of static electricity. Gilbert coined a new term, electricus, derived from the Greek electron, amber, the first noun to denote the mysterious attraction when rubbing amber with animal fur. He not only described how amber attracted paper scraps, but also compared it to the magnetic needle's attraction, emphasizing that electricity and magnetism are distinct phenomena. Gilbert called metals that could be charged electrics, and those that could not non-electrics. These words opened a door, ushering humanity into a new world where electricus was not just a concept but the beginning of electrical science. At the same time in Germany, the Duke of Saxe-Gotha, Otto von Guericke, inspired experimental science with the first vacuum pump. In 1663, he used two metal hemispheres fitting tightly together, pumped out the air, then tried to separate them. The external air pressure held them so firmly that human strength could not pull them apart. Although this invention was not directly related to electricity, it sparked belief in invisible forces. And soon after, Guericke experimented further. Rubbing a rotating glass sphere with sheepskin, he observed sparks when bringing his hand close, a vivid demonstration of static electricity. His strange machine not only proved the existence of a vacuum, but also paved the way for the notion, if air or vacuum can exert force, then why can't electrons in matter be separated, moved, and generate energy? In London, Francis Hauksbee, a skilled watchmaker turned experimental instrument maker, continued this line of inquiry. In 1705, he covered a glass sphere with a layer of leather, spun it in a partial vacuum, then touched it. The sphere glowed brilliantly white, a first lamp, though faint, yet able to illuminate a few steps in a dark room. Hauksbee called it a dry electrical light. It was the precursor to the light bulb, light without burning coal or oil, generated by electric current through air. Hauksbee's experiment stunned the scientific community. They realized electricity was not only an attractive force, but could also produce light, offering hope for a future where darkness would no longer be a barrier. In 1752, under the ominous skies of Philadelphia, Benjamin Franklin risked attaching a key to a kite string and gently flying it toward storm clouds. Amid the thunderous storm, Franklin remained patient. A spark finally traveled down the string, separating water droplets and lighting a small spark at the key. Thus, lightning, a phenomenon long thought to be controlled by deities, became electricity. Franklin proved that the electricity in clouds and the dry electricity in static experiments were one and the same. He laid the groundwork for the concepts of positive and negative in electrical science and equipped humanity with the first tool to control electricity, the kite key and conducting wire. Franklin was not only a statesman, but also the father of modern electrical science, envisioning a day when people could illuminate entire cities by controlling invisible electrons. Less than half a century later, Alessandro Volta in Italy elevated static electricity experiments to a new level. In 1800, Volta alternated discs of zinc and copper, separated by salt-soaked cloth, creating a voltaic pile. A continuous current flowed from one disc to the next, strong enough to heat a metal wire and conduct electrolysis. Volta's pile required neither lightning nor spinning machines. It produced a steady, reliable current, igniting the Industrial Revolution, from dry cells for clocks and early electric lights to invaluable laboratory assistants. Volta also inspired many subsequent scientists. It was the key to locking out darkness and lighting up the coming century. Although the experiments of Gilbert, Guericke, Hauksbee, Franklin, and Volta took place in laboratories, imagine the streets and marketplaces of the 18th century. At night, people still burned oil lamps and candles. Clothing smelled strongly of smoke. Walls swarmed with mosquitoes, and only in a secluded corner, quietly, a few scientists would uncoil wires, pass current through Volta's piles, and watch those primitive lights glow gently, as a promise of a distant dawn. Those first rays of light kindled the aspiration to bring electricity out of the lab and into life, illuminating streets, helping doctors examine wounds, transmitting news through metal wires. Listening to the breath of history, we feel humanity's heartbeat gradually syncing with the pulse of discovery, a slow but steady march from wondrous static sparks to coherent electric currents. Each scientist, whether a watchmaker or a statesman-inventor, left their footprints on the long road to conquering darkness. They stayed up nights, faced unexpected sparks, endured light shocks, but all to remind us that science is not for the faint of heart, yet it bestows upon humanity an invaluable gift: light, warmth, and energy. The light produced by the voltaic pile opened a new era, yet it was truly only the beginning. Volta's column glowed with a brief flash, then the research team quietly packed up. However, in those humble laboratories, the first sparks had ignited in humanity the will to transform the world. Now, let us wrap our feet around coils of copper wire, listen to the clang of metal in mechanical motion, and explore the journey from static electricity experiments to the first motor, where electrical energy truly began to take shape as a tool. In a small London workshop in 1831, Michael Faraday, a carpenter apprenticed to science, diligently carried out one of the greatest experiments in the history of electrical science. Faraday fixed a large coil of wire wound around an iron core and placed a smaller movable coil beside it. When he moved a magnet through the large coil, an electric current suddenly flowed through the small coil, strong enough to ignite a piece of iodine-soaked paper. "Invisible forces dance within the coils," Faraday exclaimed. He had discovered electromagnetic induction. That electric current can be generated by a changing magnetic field without direct contact with a power source. Faraday's hammer on the workbench rang through the room like thunder heralding a revolution. Faraday's experiment not only recorded induced current, but also revealed a new concept: the magnetic field, a force field surrounding a conductor or magnet. He sketched faint curves around the iron core, calling them lines of force, and realized they could bend, intersect, and diverge. Earth's magnetic field, the artificial field from coils, and the interaction between two coils, all existed in an invisible realm, perceptible only through their effects on tiny compass needles. Faraday meticulously recorded every dimension, every angle, every measured voltage, laying the groundwork for field theory. Driven by curiosity, Faraday built the first electric generator, a copper rotor with attached magnets spinning around a steel core connected by sliding contacts to conduct electricity outward. As the magnets turned, a direct current, DC, flowed through the wires, powerful enough to light a small carbon filament lamp and power an experimental apparatus. Though modest in output, it was living proof that electricity could be produced at will, independent of chemical reactions or natural lightning. Michael Faraday mapped the invisible magnetic field with trembling strokes, but it was James Clerk Maxwell, the Scottish mathematician, who gave those discoveries wings by unifying electricity and magnetism into a single theory. In 1864, Maxwell published his famous four equations, describing the relationships among electric fields, magnetic fields, charge density, and current density. He predicted that electromagnetic fluctuations would propagate through space as waves at nearly the speed of light. Those electromagnetic waves include radio waves, microwaves, X-rays, and visible light. From a small lab current, Maxwell painted an unseen sea of waves across the night sky, enveloping the planet. Maxwell's theory of electromagnetic waves spurred Heinrich Hertz in Germany in 1887 to build resonant circuits to transmit and receive radio waves. Hertz used loop antennas excited by spark discharges to generate electromagnetic waves, then placed a receiving antenna meters away, the first successful wireless signal. Radio waves could not only travel, but also encode information, voice, data, images. From there, Marconi and other engineers began building commercial wireless systems, linking continents and shrinking geographical distances. At sea, ships used GMDSS radio equipment so fishermen and sailors could send distress calls. On land, radio waves awakened millions with news bulletins and morning music. While radio waves connected the world, another application of electricity breathed new life into industry: the electric motor. In 1873, Zenobé Gramme in France built the Gramme generator and realized that reversing the current through the generator caused its rotor to spin, thus creating a simple electric motor. By the late 19th century, engineers like Nikola Tesla and Rudolf Diesel developed alternating current AC motors and combined diesel turbine engines, converting electrical energy into powerful mechanical energy. Steam, coal, and hydro-powered power stations sprang up everywhere, illuminating factories, driving conveyor belts, operating looms, crushers, and rudimentary robots. Industry entered its first phase of automation, and the global economy exploded. From small generators, electricity was gradually transmitted through high-voltage lines and distributed to every home. The fierce war of currents between Edison's direct current, DC, and Westinghouse's alternating current, AC, ended in AC's victory, thanks to its ability to transmit over long distances and step down voltage easily via transformers. High-voltage transmission towers stretched like magic wands across the plains, and millions of Edison lamps and carbon filament bulbs, alongside modern LEDs, illuminated parks, streets, and neighborhoods. Humanity gradually forgot darkness. Street lamps became giant candles, banishing most of the night's dangers. Electricity did more than illuminate and power machines. It permeated every corner of life. Hospital, Wilhelm Röntgen's X-ray machine, 1895, used X-rays to visualize bones. Ultrasound and magnetic resonance imaging, MRI, use electromagnetic waves. Electrosurgery devices control bleeding and reduce blood loss. Telecommunications. Alexander Graham Bell's telephone, 1876, transmitted voice over wires. Today's mobile phones and the Internet use digital signals, fiber optic cables, and wireless networks, all based on electromagnetic theory. Entertainment. From radio and television to smartphones, computers, and tablets, all electronic devices use complex integrated circuits, ICs, operating on milliamps of current to process signals, graphics, and sound. With a single tap, people can browse the web, watch HD movies, play video games, and connect globally. Electricity has brought tremendous benefits: increased productivity, improved health care, connected people, and limitless entertainment. But it also poses challenges: rising energy consumption, biomass and greenhouse pollution, vulnerability of centralized grids, risk of electrical leakage, and fire hazards from short circuits. These issues have driven research into renewable energy, solar, wind, tidal, and smart grids to balance supply and demand and optimize power flow. The journey from the first static spark to motors and a global grid demonstrates humanity's indomitable spirit. From silent darkness people have gradually conquered and replicated natural light, turning darkness into an ally. The three parts of Chapter 1 come to a close while simultaneously opening the door to the age of artificial light. Chapter 2. Light in every corner of the house. Night gradually fell beyond the intricately carved wooden window frames of the 19th century, when the last candle flickered out and the room sank into darkness. Yet across the ocean, in Menlo Park, New Jersey, a small laboratory was shining brighter than the moon. The first carbon filaments invented by Thomas Edison in 1879 were more than mere lamps. They were a promise of a new era, where humans no longer shied away from the night, where every corner of the house, every hallway, every kitchen could glow as brilliantly as daytime. Before Edison, together with more than 20 collaborators in his invention factory, pierced the darkness with artificial light, traditional homes lay silent to the crackling of oil lamps. The glow of candles and lanterns mixed with the smell of smoke, creating an atmosphere both cozy and stifling. Whenever a breeze slipped through a crack, the flame flickered and danced, casting eerie, sometimes frightening shadows on the walls. In the parlor, the wife bent over her mending by lamplight, her hands trembling as she sewed. In the bedroom, children listened to fairy tales by a candle perched on the edge of a table, their eyes fixed on every flicker. And the man read the evening paper in his armchair, frowning at the smudged print through the smoke. Yet above all, darkness remained a barrier. No one dared step into the garden after 9 o'clock. No stoop could reveal each stair in full, and passenger trains on the tracks had to stop at dusk to avoid accidents. All shared the same question. Could we harness electric current to light our paths, our ways, our lives? Thomas Edison understood that light was not only a scientific matter, but also one of commerce and daily life. In a makeshift glass and wood laboratory, he and his assistants tested thousands of carbon filaments, from pigeon feathers and horsehair to wood-derived carbon fibers. Each time a bulb lit, the lab fell silent. Each time it went out, the team exhaled in unison and immediately resumed testing. In the end, a carbon filament made from balsa wood in an inert atmosphere proved most efficient. The lamp burned continuously for over 40 hours. On the first night, Edison installed a test lamp in the laboratory. He instructed his assistant to close the door and draw the curtains. The warm yellow light spilled through a crack in the drapes, gleamed on the roof tiles, and reflected in the small pool before the door, creating a rare, serene scene. The footsteps of the staff echoed throughout the room, their eyes wide with wonder. It's time to say goodbye to oil lamps forever. Just 2 years later, in 1882, Edison inaugurated the Pearl Street Station power plant in Manhattan. The small station, with 3 steam-driven dynamos, generated enough power for over 400 lamps in the neighboring district. As copper wires snaked along Wall Street, office buildings lit up, and workers no longer hurried home before dark. The pale yellow glow chased away the street's shadows, illuminated arched windows, and highlighted the solemn facades of neoclassical architecture. From then on, Manhattan's nights were no longer silent. They hummed with chatter, the click of leather boots on sidewalks, and the rustle of wind through tree-lined avenues. On each cast-iron lamppost was a black and white enamel sign reading Edison Electric Illuminating Company. At first, people were amazed, even skeptical. Does it light up during the day? What happens if the power goes out? But after the first month, when they worked late, when doctors made house calls until 10 at night, when students studied by lamplight, the electric light proved its superiority. Brighter than candles, smokeless, odorless, and oil-free. Soon after Pearl Street, private homes in Brooklyn, Boston, and London installed early lighting systems. These included a small generator in a basement vault, copper wiring along walls, glossy black porcelain switches, brass lamp sockets, and dangling carbon filament bulbs. In flannel pajamas, homeowners could stand in the parlor, flip a switch, and instantly illuminate every corner. Children cheered with delight at flipping the switch themselves. Wives beamed with pride as the family library glowed clearly. Portraits of ancestors on the walls revealed every wrinkle and detail. Yet the system was rudimentary. Insulation was imperfect, causing occasional shorts and fires. Switches were fragile. Fuses needed frequent replacement. Still, the feeling of controlling one's own light, drawing the night curtain at will, deciding to see or not to see in each moment, made people overlook these small drawbacks. From lighting, early electric appliances began to appear. Electric iron, simply plug in, and the metal plate heats to press crisp white linen. Small electric fan, spinning steel blades to chase away summer heat, no more tiring hand fanning. Electric handheld drill, helping carpenters bore holes faster with speed control. Electric clock, replacing the pendulum clock, running smoothly without daily winding. Each morning, families woke under the gentle red glow of the electric iron, then flipped the fan switch to cool the room before heading out. The rustle of woolen curtains rising was no longer a signal of sunrise, but the click of an electric switch. The road to school seemed longer, but little Lay eagerly looked for streetlights through the carriage window. Merchants lit their stalls with warm yellow bulbs, making ready-to-eat foods more appealing and safe during night markets. In this cozy space, electric light changed habits. People were no longer bound by day and night. They could read, work, create, converse, and spend family time until midnight. Life's pace seemed extended just a bit. Bedtime stories stretched to the last page. Moonlit dates on stone staircases glowed softly, and dreams of a world that never sleeps began to form in every mind. Father sat repairing the first electric radio. Mother read intently by the desk lamp. Child eagerly wrote homework under bright light, all peacefully together under a roof illuminated by invisible currents. That light not only dispelled darkness, but also kindled hope, sparking countless vivid stories of smart homes, glowing skyscrapers, and eventually an invisibly connected world. Night, the city awakens with the sound of train whistles and the brilliant electric lights on every street. Edison street lamps mounted on glossy black iron poles cast a gentle yellow glow, illuminating each cobblestone of the sidewalk, each silent row of trees. Carriages, later replaced by subways and electric cars, sped by, leaving trails of light smearing the air, as if painting a still life in light. In the central square, dozens of high-hung lamps made historic structures like St. Paul's Cathedral or the Arc de Triomphe blaze, showcasing their magnificent Corinthian columns and intricate reliefs. Passers-by looked up, paused to admire, then lifted their box cameras to capture the rare moment. Night was no longer a silent iron realm, but a grand stage with colored lights, shimmering reflections on the artificial lake before the square. The nocturnal entertainment market exploded with the first electric movie theaters. Velvet red curtains were drawn back. Dozens of carbon lamps lit the auditorium, making the pure white screen stand out with each slow-motion frame of the black and white film. Audiences, young and old, male and female, poured in, paid their tickets, and squeezed into wooden benches, eager to witness wild horse chases, romantic moonlit love scenes, or a train hurtling off a cliff. The rotating film projector created long beams of light, drawing straight lines from the source to the screen, immersing viewers in a maze of light. Not only theaters, but dramatic stages were also improved with heat-resistant lighting systems produced in collaboration by Nikola Tesla and George Westinghouse. They used alternating current, AC, to power the first halogen lamps, producing whiter, stronger light without smoke. On stage, actors in lavish costumes stepped into the spotlight, their choreography ablaze, the audience's emotions awakened. Scenes of stormy seas, the fall of Troy, the tragic romance of Romeo and Juliet, all came alive, shimmering like a dream in the enchanted space. During this period, modern commercial districts saw the rise of white night shops, open all night thanks to electric lighting. Shimmering department stores enticed shoppers, wooden shelves displaying leather jackets, evening suits, silk scarves, silver jewelry, all under bright white light that revealed true colors and fine stitching. Music from electrically powered gramophones mingled with laughter and clinking glasses, transforming the streets into an endless festival. People strolled, browsed, shopped, then paused at sidewalk cafes, sipping espresso from the first electric machines, letting themselves drift away to soothing jazz melodies. Public spaces also witnessed the birth of light parks, nighttime gardens aglow with ground lights under trees, lamp paths, lanterns with ornate ironwork. Children wandered with their parents, watching swans glide on the lake, each reflected sparkle on the water like a shattered glass bead. Couples strolled hand in hand beneath flamboyant flowering trees, the lights weaving pink, purple, green, and yellow streaks for an unforgettable romantic setting. Late-night outdoor concerts drew artists from far and wide, performing classical music, tango, ragtime, in a space where sound and light intertwined poetically. Electric lighting gradually permeated transportation infrastructure. London's first traffic signal in 1868 was lit by gas, then quickly replaced by blinking electric lights in green, red, and yellow to coordinate the booming mechanical traffic. New York's first electric taxi in 1897 ran beneath brilliant streetlights, its headlights clearly illuminating passengers boarding and alighting. Streetlights, headlights, signals, decorative lamps, all together formed a complex network of light, making urban life seamless, safe, and more appealing. With public electric lighting, urban life never slept. Rest and work hours bent gently. Newspapers ran overnight presses. Textile mills, steelworks, and shipyards operated in 3 shifts. Nurses in hospitals still received critical patients at dawn. Pubs, bars, and restaurants stayed open all night. Electric lights erased the boundary between day and night, transforming life into a ceaseless symphony where everyone played a part in society's rhythm. The city overflowed with brilliant lights, where people no longer feared darkness but turned streets into endless stages, making every evening a multicolored festival of light. Now let your eyes slowly close and feel the peace after the exhilaration. Closing the era of blazing carbon and halogen lamps, the world gradually shifted to cooler, more efficient, and more colorful lighting technologies. In the early 20th century, fluorescent lamps emerged in the form of long, transparent glass tubes filled with mercury vapor and phosphor that glowed when electrified. The light they emitted was a cool white-blue, steady, unlike filament bulbs, allowing people to work longer without eye strain. In modern offices, from factories to medical clinics, fluorescent lighting became the norm, highlighting the colors of medicines, documents, and technical drawings. Yet those cold, grid-like fixtures drew complaints for their impersonal atmosphere and occasional monotony. At the same time, in Paris and Las Vegas, the art of neon lighting became a trend. Glass tubes bent into letters, serpents, hearts, filled with neon or argon gas glowed pink, red, or blue under high voltage. Bourbon Street in New Orleans, the Strip in Las Vegas, and Tokyo's Shinjuku district lit up like artificial starfields. Neon forms not only illuminated, but told stories, attracted tourists, and advertised brands. In visual art, neon was used in installations where light itself became a brushstroke in three-dimensional space, creating surreal effects that felt both modern and nostalgic. Between the 1960s and 70s, improved halogen lamps appeared, using tungsten filaments and halogen gas to protect the filament, allowing higher filament temperatures, wider light, and longer life. Architects used halogen to uplight walls, accentuate concrete masses, spiral staircases, and gallery-hung artworks. Interior designers used it to spotlight bookshelves, ceramics, and family portraits. Halogen became the key to indirect lighting schemes, producing balanced shadow and light effects that elevated living spaces. By the late 20th century, LEDs, light-emitting diodes, arrived. Initially, only small red indicator lights in electronics, engineers soon developed green, white, and multicolored LEDs. Compared to fluorescents and halogens, LEDs consume far less power, emit minimal heat, and last tens of thousands of hours. Automakers equipped cars with LED headlights for greater range and lower energy use. Households hung LED strip lights around ceilings, changing colors via remote control, setting timers, and using motion sensors for automatic on-off. In medicine, red and near-infrared LEDs are used in phototherapy to stimulate healing, relieve musculoskeletal pain, and aid wound treatment. Blue LEDs have antibacterial and sterilizing effects on surfaces. Not stopping there, the concept of smart lighting emerged with Wi-Fi, Zigbee, or Bluetooth bulbs integrating controllers, alarms, ambient light sensors, and environmental sensors. Users can program color mixes, brightness levels, natural wake-up routines, shifting from warm yellow to daylight white, schedule stress relief with cool blue light, or ignite romance with pink-red hues. Human circadian rhythms are respected. Research shows strong blue morning light boosts alertness and productivity, while warm red-yellow evening light promotes melatonin production for better sleep. Thus, bioelectric lighting design not only aids visibility, but also nurtures health and mood. In urban landscapes, architectural lighting schemes transformed cityscapes. Skyscrapers lit in seasonal colors, historic monuments bathed in dewy accent lights on their domes, cable-stayed bridges glowing like rainbows suspended over rivers, festivals of light, Lyon's Fête des Lumières, the Amsterdam Light Festival, vivid Sydney, draw millions of visitors. Light artists project cultural, historical, and natural narratives onto streets through cube lights, linear arrays, and video mapping projectors. Light is no longer mere function, but a primary medium in immersive, multisensory art. Looking back on the journey, from flickering candles to smart LEDs, from fluorescent sparks to Volta's glowing column, we see that light not only banished darkness, but also narrated history, connected people, nurtured health, and sparked creativity. Light moves continually, across homes, cities, art, and science, all harmonizing into an endless symphony, drawing us closer to peaceful slumber and inspiring the next breakthroughs in electrical power. Chapter 3: The Electric Grid and the Mystery of Voltage. In the 1880s, 1890s, when electric lamps and motors first flickered to life, the biggest question was no longer how to generate electricity, but how to bring that invisible energy to every corner of cities and villages. The concept of voltage, the potential difference between 2 points, became the key to solving this puzzle. From Edison's small laboratory at Menlo Park to the vast cornfields of rural America, current had to travel long distances without excessive power loss. It was then that James Clerk Maxwell and Nikola Tesla planted the first seeds of stepping up and stepping down voltage, allowing AC, alternating current, to overcome the limitations that Edison's DC, direct current, could not reach. The first grid at Pearl Street was modest, just a few hundred meters of copper wire, powered by DC, enduring a maximum of about 110 volts, as Edison recommended. But DC suffered a serious drawback. Higher voltages caused arcing and huge transmission losses. As distance grew, heavier, more expensive conductors were required. In Chicago, a young engineer named George Westinghouse, seeing the potential of Tesla's AC system, decided to invest heavily in transformer technology. They built early transformers using primary and secondary windings to convert voltage from high levels, around 5,000 to 10,000 volts, down to consumer standards, 110, 220 volts, and vice versa. Thus, electricity could be transmitted tens of kilometers with only a fraction of the losses of DC, then reduced at local substations to safe household voltages. The war of currents between Edison, pro-DC, and Westinghouse Tesla, pro-AC, was fierce. Edison screened harrowing footage of AC shock accidents and even publicly electrocuted a horse with AC to demonstrate its danger. Nevertheless, technical and economic advantages tipped in favor of AC: long-distance transmission, easy voltage transformation, and cheaper lines. In 1896, the Niagara Falls Power Station began operating on Westinghouse's AC system, transmitting electricity over 30 kilometers to Buffalo, New York, marking the dawn of the national grid era. Engineers and laborers set to work erecting high-voltage towers, stretching steel conductors insulated by porcelain, reaching skyward like enormous steel trees. By day, these towers absorbed sunlight. By night, they sported blinking red marker lights to warn aircraft and birds. In cities, underground networks were developed, cast-iron conduits protecting copper cables, and distribution boxes in alleys, enabling outlets and switches to reach every room. Now, housewives could plug in irons anywhere. Students could study under quiet desk lamps in attics, and elevated electric trains ran smoothly through the night. The grid's topology took on radial or ring shapes, then evolved into complex meshed networks to increase reliability. If one line failed, current could reroute through another, minimizing widespread outages. Central control stations emerged, large rooms with analog switchboards, spinning dials, and blinking error lights. Operators monitored load, voltage, and current by region, ready to shift supply when demand surged in the evening or during summer heat. Meanwhile, voltage standards became international. In the U.S., household voltage was initially 110 V 60 Hz, while most European countries adopted 220-240 V 50 Hz. Standardization allowed mass production of appliances, from refrigerators and washing machines to sockets, and easy cross-border export. Even in remote areas, like coastal fishing villages or high-altitude Asian hamlets, the image of technicians climbing poles, stringing insulated lines, splicing conductors, and installing mini substations became a symbol of global connectivity. Light and power were no longer the privilege of big cities, but essential for people everywhere. When we look up at the high-voltage lines stretched across the sky, the rows of white porcelain insulators interspersed with colossal steel frames, few realize that just below the ground, or hidden within open-air substations, the brains of the power system, transformer stations, are silently regulating, stepping up and down voltage so that electricity can traverse space and reach every nook of our lives. Let us now stroll through a chain of large and small substations to see how they keep the electric lifeblood flowing unimpeded. A high to medium voltage substation typically sits on a dry mound, surrounded by security fencing and red danger high voltage signs. The gate closes behind us. Inside the yard stand upright insulated columns like skyscrapers, topped with circuit breakers and voltage monitoring devices. Nearby, copper coils larger than a person are wound around silicon steel cores. These step voltage down to medium levels. When alternating current at 110 kV or 220 kV pours in, the invisible pressure pushes through insulating layers into the steel core, then into the secondary winding at 11 kV or 22 kV. Strong enough for medium voltage distribution to residential areas, yet not so high as to cause arcing. Inside the control house, rows of rotary switches, analog gauges, and digital meters behind glass display every reading: primary voltage, secondary voltage, current, power factor. The distribution engineer sits before the control panels, listening for a coil's faint hum under overload, watching a needle jiggle if faults occur, then pressing the bypass button to reroute power. A swift action, yet one that can save an entire region from hours of blackout. When our steps lead us to a medium to low voltage substation, the scene shrinks. 11 kV from the larger substation passes through suspended insulators on bus bars into an oil-filled transformer. Here, insulating oil not only conducts heat, cooling the core and windings, but also prevents discharge through the air. Oil pressure is monitored continuously. If temperatures exceed thresholds, cooling fans start automatically or safety valves release pressure to avert mishaps. From here, voltage drops to 400 V or 230 V, suitable for domestic use. Winding concrete pathways guide us through lone gates to the remote low-voltage transformer room, where MCCB switches and circuit breakers distribute power to each neighborhood, building, or cluster of homes. Beneath city streets, underground substations sit directly under roadways, insulated by thick steel casings and concrete enclosures. Occasionally, we hear the transformer's low rumble, feel warmth from oil vents. Here, protective devices, earth leakage relays, overcurrent relays, and automatic voltage regulators, AVR, are installed so that if grid voltage fluctuates, the transformer can automatically adjust its secondary voltage to within plus 5% of nominal. Thus, sensitive equipment like TVs, computers, and refrigerators remain unharmed by voltage swings. The journey of electricity does not end there. To reach every socket in our homes, voltage must be further stepped down by transformers in elevator control panels, home distribution boards, or each device's power supply. The 230V from the substation cannot directly run through a motherboard's PCB. The board's adapter, or SMPS, converts 230V down to 12V, 5V, or even 3.3V levels just right for microprocessors, LEDs, and memory chips to wake up and operate precisely. Each voltage reduction tells a story of pressure relief, keeping current as gentle as a stream without damaging delicate electronic components. In harsh winter, the power industry faces load-balancing challenges. When households simultaneously run reversible air conditioners, electric heaters, and induction cooktops, consumption spikes. To prevent overload, substations link to neighboring stations via ring networks. Operators monitor real-time load curves, activate backup sources, battery storage, gas turbines, or small hydropower to keep voltage stable at 230V plus 10%. Otherwise, voltage could drop to 200V, causing weak motors and dim lights, or spike to 260V, risking equipment damage. Today, with the advent of the smart grid, much of the voltage regulation process is digitized. New transformers integrate IoT sensors to continuously measure temperature, current, and voltage, transmitting data to central systems via telecom networks. Control software uses AI algorithms to forecast hourly, daily, and seasonal loads, automatically adjusting unattended substations to minimize losses and maximize efficiency. In case of faults or energy-saving goals, the grid can reroute power to prioritize critical areas such as hospitals, telecom hubs, and data centers. Over more than a century, from the first simple oil transformers to sealed, oil-free units using SF6 gas insulation, the art of voltage regulation has advanced. SCADA, supervisory control and data acquisition, systems enable remote monitoring and control, while lithium-ion batteries or vanadium redox flow batteries serve as power banks to balance instantaneous demand. We realize that the craft of balancing voltage lies not only in windings and steel cores, but in harmonizing technology, environment, and human needs. Imagine you are sitting in front of your laptop screen late at night, the room softly lit, your fingers gliding swiftly over the keys, while inside the laptop, the switching power supply silently converts 220 V50 Hz from the outlet into multiple DC voltage rails, 19V for the motherboard, 5V for the hard drive, 3.3V for the graphics chipset, even 1.2V for the CPU. This process runs at hundreds of kHz, with tiny inductors and capacitors pulsing, routing voltage through power transistors and through a feedback loop to maintain plus 1% stability. If the current fluctuates, voltage sensors instantly detect it, and the control circuit adjusts the pulse width modulation, PWM, to lengthen or shorten transistor on-off times, ensuring each internal component receives the sweet spot of power, never low enough to freeze the system, never high enough to damage parts, all happening in a silent, instantaneous breath of circuitry. Likewise, in your smartphone, the fast charger uses USB power delivery or Qualcomm quick charge protocols to negotiate with the built-in battery. When you plug in, protection circuits in the charger and phone motherboard exchange signals over the USB-C control channel. Then the Power Management IC, PMIC, selects 5V, 9V, 12V, or 20V, converting it to currents from 0.5A to 3A as needed. In moments, the voltage is routed through buck-boost converters to keep the battery at 4.2V maximum when full and down to about 3.7V when discharging, preserving battery life. Each time you unplug, the PMIC switches to discharge mode, regulating current to the CPU and display, balancing performance with energy efficiency. Strolling down a nighttime street, you might spot a DC fast charger beside a traditional gas pump. Here, the 400V/800V AC from the grid passes through an inverter and rectifier to produce DC directly for the car's battery. A battery management system, BMS, monitors each cell's temperature and voltage, balancing them via resistive or active balancing circuits to prevent overvoltage or overheating. When the driver selects fast charge, the system delivers higher voltage and double the normal current, reducing charging time from 30 minutes to 15, all based on the art of flexible voltage control and microsecond scale feedback to optimize speed while safeguarding battery chemistry. On rooftops, solar panels track the morning sun, generating about 30 to 40 V per module string, then feeding into a maximum power point tracker, MPPT. The MPPT finds the panel's optimum power point, P equals UI, under current irradiance and temperature, adjusting its DC-DC converter to extract maximum current and voltage. The MPPT's DC output then goes to a grid tie inverter, converting to 220 V50 Hz AC synchronized with the grid, either feeding back to the grid or powering home loads directly. When sunlight wanes, the MPPT clusters to stabilize voltage and prioritize harvesting available energy. Offshore wind farms operate similarly. Turbines spin, a gearbox steps rotor speed to match synchronous or asynchronous AC generators, producing 690 V50 Hz. A high-power converter then steps it up to 33 kV or 132 kV via an integrated transformer for grid transmission. In strong winds, pitch control and yaw control adjust blade angle and orientation to maintain stable voltage and frequency, preventing grid-harming fluctuations. Each turbine is a mobile substation, continuously balancing its output voltage with real-time control feedback. In data centers housing massive server farms, the uninterruptible power supply, UPS, serves as the final shield. The UPS takes 220 V50 Hz from the grid, filters noise via static UPS electronics or batteries, rotary UPS, and powers hundreds of rack units. If the grid fails, the UPS instantly switches to battery or flywheel backup, maintaining stable voltage for minutes to hours, long enough for diesel generators to start and supply backup power. The UPS control circuits monitor grid voltage, battery temperature, and trigger the automatic transfer switch in microseconds, ensuring no downtime that might cause data loss. Even in a smart home, voltage is monitored room by room. A central controller receives signals from smart plug voltage sensors, identifies consuming devices, TVs, washers, air conditioners, and schedules on-off cycles to balance load and reduce bills. If grid voltage falls below 210 V, the system automatically disconnects non-critical devices, prioritizing refrigerator, hallway lights, and internet router. When voltage stabilizes, it restores power to other devices. At every moment, these microcontrol circuits dance to keep voltage within safe bounds, ensuring uninterrupted living. These tales are but a glimpse into the modern voltage revolution. From laptops, phones, and electric cars to renewable energy systems, data centers, and smart apartments, voltage is no longer an inert number, but the universal language linking every device. Engineers, through sophisticated control algorithms and circuitry, have made voltage the heartbeat, the relentless pulse of modern society. Close your eyes, feel the night breeze, and you can sense that gentle current flowing through PCBs and components, fueling dreams and heralding the next chapter in the history of electricity. Chapter 4. The Revolution of the Electric Industry. Right from the early days of the 20th century, when steam lines and steam engines were still symbols of industrial might, electric lighting and electric motors had quietly converged, ready to burst forth into a new revolution. On the vast grounds of Ford's Highland Park plant in Michigan in 1913, Henry Ford applied an electrically driven assembly line for the first time. Each automobile component, wheels, chassis, engine, was brought automatically to the workers, cutting production time from 12 hours down to just 93 minutes. The rumble of electric motors, the whir of gears, and the blinking circuits on the control panels transformed crude labor instincts and ushered industry into its earliest era of automation, where electric power became the lifeblood running through the factory, empowering every worker, every arm, and every machine. But it wasn't just automobiles. In the textile industry, the electric loom systems of Platt Brothers & Co. in England turned Manchester's mills into three-shift operations capable of producing thousands of yards of fabric each day. Small electric motors mounted on each shaft, belt drives and flywheels synchronized each loom smoothly and quietly without the smoke and explosion hazards common to steam engines. The hum of insulated electric oil lubricated bearings sounded like a modern industrial symphony, etching into every worker's mind the lesson: electricity is our most faithful partner. In food processing plants, when canning and packaging lines switched from manual to electric operation, output of canned meat, milk, sugar, and more skyrocketed. Electric pumps drew water from reservoirs. Electric mixers blended pastry dough. Electric capping machines tightened lids, each controlled by switches and motor starters on central switchboards. No longer did workers wait for coal-fired boilers to heat. A flip of a switch energized relays, motors sprang to life, and the journey from farm to table for millions of families became faster and safer. At sea, the once gigantic steamships were now outfitted with generators and interior lighting systems. Luxury passenger cabins glowed with incandescent bulbs and premium desk lamps, creating a cozy ambiance for evening dinners. Engine rooms ran on electric pumps, power drills, and arc welders for rapid repairs when needed. Electric searchlights mounted on the bow pierced stormy nights, reducing collision risks. Electric horns and shipboard communication systems carried sound signals and connected compartments deep below the waterline. With the electric industry's explosion, measurement and control devices also reached new heights. Electric meters became tools for recording consumption in homes and businesses. Electronic thermostats automatically opened and closed steam valves or switched heating elements on and off, allowing glassworks and brick kilns to maintain temperatures within a single degree. Early distributed control systems, DCS, enabled remote supervisory control via electronic computers, letting engineers monitor production, receive alerts by lights and sirens, minimize accidents, and maximize uptime. In mining, electric rock drills, electric shovels, and electric conveyor belts replaced manual labor, enabling coal, iron, and copper mines to reach unprecedented depths and output levels. Mobile substations installed directly in the shafts supplied low-voltage power to equipment, while electric ventilation fans extracted poisonous gases and dust, creating a relatively safe environment for miners. Every spark of an electric welder and every turn of an electric motor testified to humanity's triumph over the darkness of the mines. Meanwhile, city governments began deploying public power networks for buses and trams. Electric streetcars in Chicago, London, Paris, and Tokyo not only carried passengers, but also relied on overhead wires, each pole effectively a small transformer station to supply steady voltage to each car. Thanks to electricity, distance was no longer a barrier. Workers could live tens of kilometers from their jobs, confident of reliable round-the-clock transport. The hum of automated lines, the glow of headlights on conveyor belts, and the hidden currents in control systems. The electric industry had ignited a growth flame, turning laboratory light and motion into the breath of global production. In Part 2, we will delve into modern household life, from electric refrigerators, washing machines, and microwaves to air conditioners, and explore how these appliances reshaped daily habits, improved quality of life, and set the 20th century standard of comfort. Immediately after industrial lines were fully electrified, family life also entered an unprecedented era of convenience. First came the electric refrigerator, once hailed as a marvel of the kitchen. In 1913, Fred W. Wolfe designed a fridge using an electric vapor compression compressor, chilling the storage compartment with ammonia refrigerant, so perishables no longer had to be packed in dry ice or brined in salt. Cuts of meat, butter tubs, and milk bottles were now kept at a stable 3 to 5 degrees C. By the time refrigerators became commonplace after World War II, homemakers no longer needed daily market trips, could cook in batches, and store produce and canned goods long-term, saving time and effort. The steady hum of the compressor and the soft whoosh of the condenser fan at the side became an intimate kitchen rhythm. Next, the electric washing machine, Alva J. Fisher's 1908 invention, revolutionized laundry. Gone were the weary days of hand washing with a metal tub and washboard, the automatic washer's rotating steel drum, rinse, and spin cycles cleaned clothes in a single operation. By the 1950s, washers featured built-in water heaters, automatic soap dispensers, timers, and high-speed spin cycles, leaving laundry both clean and nearly dry. In the modern home, the washer and dryer stand side by side in the laundry room. Their motors' gentle vibrations at cycle start reminding homemakers they had been freed from manual scrubbing. We must also mention the microwave oven, Percy Spencer's 1946 breakthrough at Raytheon. Initially used only to pop corn and test melting chocolate, the microwave quickly became indispensable. Microwaves penetrate food, agitating water molecules to generate instant heat. From office breakfasts to family meal reheats, microwaves reduced cooking times to minutes, meeting the need for quick meals in busy routines. Today, with automatic cooking programs, balanced defrost functions, and uniform heating, courtesy of a copper waveguide, microwaves help preserve nutrients, cut oil use, and improve meal quality. On sweltering summer nights, the air conditioner arrived as the family savior. Willis Carrier's 1902 invention for textile mill humidity control was miniaturized for home use. Electric air conditioners use compressors, refrigerant, and fans to extract heat from indoor air and expel it outside while filtering dust and dehumidifying, creating a cool 24 degrees C environment. In the 1960s-70s, two-way cooling heating units emerged, stabilizing year-round temperatures. Early inverter models appeared, automatically varying compressor frequency to save energy and maintain steady temperature, curbing fluctuations that disrupt sleep. Alongside these, a host of small electric appliances infiltrated every living room, dining room, and study. Vacuum cleaners auto-sucking dust from carpets and sofa seams, electric kettles bringing water to a boil via heating elements more quickly than gas stoves, steam irons flattening clothes in seconds with high-pressure steam, touch-sensitive night lights casting soft nocturnal glows to comfort children and help elders awaken, electric rice cookers switching off when the rice is done and keeping food warm for hours. Each flipped switch is a human touch point with convenience, comfort, and safety brought by electricity. These appliances not only enhanced life quality, but shaped daily habits. Family meals no longer waited for slow stoves. Cleanup became swift. Sleep schedules aligned with ideal room temperatures. Homeowners can now schedule room heating remotely via smartphone, turn on lights upon arriving home over Wi-Fi, and control the entire house through a smart home system with virtual assistants. Invisible currents weave through every outlet, sensor, and control board, linking people to modern comforts once only dreamed of in science fiction. A typical morning. As dawn's rays peek through the window, the night light turns off, the curtains open automatically, the refrigerator maintains its chill, the electric coffee maker instantly steams and pours a hot espresso, the air conditioner drops the temperature to a pleasant level, and the gentle alarm chime plays. Everything runs smoothly thanks to electricity, the silent enabler behind every convenience, making everyday life easier and more delightful. The mountain of electricity bills gradually piles up on the coffee table. The lights still flicker each time the switch is flipped, and the tick of the digital clock seems to remind us electricity is not infinite. When the modern household is equipped with a refrigerator, air conditioner, washing machine, microwave, and countless other devices, the greatest challenge is no longer how to secure enough power, but how to use it as economically and sustainably as possible. First, we must regard each appliance as a consumer with its own energy efficiency ratio, EER, and rated power. For example, an A+++ inverter air conditioner uses 30–50% less electricity than an older model thanks to an inverter circuit that automatically adjusts compressor speed. Modern refrigerators feature temperature sensors and variable speed fans, running the compressor only when internal temperatures exceed the threshold, significantly reducing startup cycles, which consume the most energy. When shopping, homeowners should pay attention to energy labels and choose the products with the lowest consumption within their class. Next, a green living lifestyle requires us to change daily habits. During the day, maximize natural light. Draw back the curtains instead of flipping on lights. In winter, set room temperatures to around 18 to 20 degrees and layer clothing instead of turning up the heat. When leaving home all day, switch off devices on standby, especially TVs, set-top boxes, and phone chargers, since standby mode can draw 5 to 15 W per device. Save hot water by installing an indirect water heater with a circulation pump to maintain temperature and avoid heat loss through piping. In bathrooms, use LED lighting and combined exhaust fan or ventilation units instead of high-power electric heaters. Today's household energy-saving technologies are diverse, from smart plugs that measure and report each device's consumption to home energy management systems that schedule on-off cycles during off-peak electricity rates, exploiting low-cost hours for laundry and oven use, cutting bills by up to 30%. Rooftop micro-solar panels paired with on-site battery storage let families retain surplus daytime energy for night use, reducing reliance on the grid. Many homes have even built internal microgrids, selling excess back to utilities for monthly credit. Alongside technology, bill management is an art. Understand tiered pricing and peak, off-peak periods. Restructure device use to the cheapest hours. Enroll in green tariff programs, so part of your bill funds renewable energy development. Use utility apps to receive alerts on abnormal consumption spikes, enabling timely checks for leaks or faulty appliances. A household can save 10 to 20% on bills simply by adjusting habits and leveraging management tools. Finally, personal responsibility extends beyond saving. It includes educating the next generation about energy's value. Teach children that an hour of phone charging isn't limitless, that turning off lights when leaving a room is a small but vital act. Observe Earth Hour annually as a family, switching off lights to enjoy candlelight and conversation. Join community groups to share energy-saving tips, spreading the green spirit through neighborhoods and towns. The journey from the electric-powered auto assembly line to every tiny apartment, from ultra-high voltage substations to smart plugs, is bound by voltage, efficiency, and human habits. When each home, each switch, each ampere is managed smartly and conscientiously, we preserve precious energy for today and for generations to come. Chapter 5. The First Electrical Currents in Medicine. From the moment humans began to wonder about the invisible power of electricity, medicine quickly recognized the tremendous potential of those forces for exploring and treating the body. That journey began with strange experiments when Luigi Galvani saw a frog's leg twitch thanks to a spark of static electricity, gradually giving birth to bioelectricity, where electric currents became the language of tissue, nerves, heartbeats, and brain waves. Galvani and the origin of bioelectricity. In 1780, by candlelight in his dim Bologna laboratory, Galvani happened to attach 2 iron hooks to the thigh of a dead frog, then touched a nearby brass hook with his scalpel. Suddenly, the frog's muscle fibers twitched, an apparent revival of life in the corpse, as electricity seemed to awaken vitality. Galvani called it animal electricity, believing each animal generated its own electric current. Although Alessandro Volta later demonstrated that the effect was due to current generated between 2 dissimilar metals, voltaic electricity, Galvani's experiment marked the first use of electricity to stimulate living tissue and paved the way for all later electrotherapies. The voltmeter and early neuroelectric measurement. In the early 19th century, alongside Volta's voltaic pile producing steady current, scientists quickly built voltmeters and galvanometers to measure static and low-level currents. Surgeons at the Grands Hospices in Paris experimented by placing copper electrodes on the skin of patients with rheumatism or atherosclerosis, then applying currents of a few milliamps. They recorded mild tingling, vessel dilation, and temporary pain relief. Though the mechanism remained unclear, this was the first bold entry of electricity into clinical medicine. X-ray machines and the quantum leap in imaging. In 1895, Wilhelm Röntgen accidentally discovered X-rays while testing a Crookes tube in his Würzburg laboratory. Invisible rays penetrated hard substances like bone and imprinted their image on a bromide-coated photographic plate, revealing internal body structures no instrument had ever shown. When he X-rayed his wife's hand, the bones and her wedding ring appeared in sharp relief, stunning the medical world. From then on, X-ray imaging became indispensable for diagnosing fractures, tumors, and foreign objects without surgery. First, electroencephalography and electrical stimulation. Just a few years later, researchers sought to record brain electricity, the voltages generated by billions of neurons. In 1929, Hans Berger created the first electroencephalograph, EEG, placing electrodes on the scalp to record microvolt-level voltage fluctuations. Alpha, beta, and theta waves were identified, enabling neurologists to diagnose epilepsy, sleep disorders, and brain tumors. At the same time, transcutaneous electrical nerve stimulation, TENS, emerged, using low-frequency currents to stimulate peripheral nerves and alleviate back pain, joint pain, and muscle inflammation. Diathermy and electrothermal therapy. By the 1930s and 40s, diathermy, deep tissue heating via high-frequency, radiofrequency currents, became widespread. Diathermy machines emitted 0.5 to 3 MHz waves that penetrated muscle tissue, boosting circulation, reducing joint stiffness, and aiding sports injury recovery. Physicians and technicians monitored tissue temperature with small thermocouples, adjusting power to reach target temperatures around 42 to 45 degrees Celsius without burning the skin. Implantable pacemakers and defibrillators. By the 1950s, as the heart's electrophysiology became better understood, electricity was used to control the body's most vital organ. Edward Zoll first applied external electrodes across the chest of cardiac arrest patients to stimulate heartbeats, effective but painfully high voltage. In 1958, engineer Wilson Greatbatch accidentally installed the wrong resistor in a circuit and produced small electrical pulses. He quickly realized they could pace the heart. Working with physicians, he developed the implantable pacemaker, a tiny device under the skin delivering 1 to 2 V pulses at 60-70 beats per minute, saving millions of patients with bradycardia. Over a century of exploration and application of bioelectricity, humanity has continued to deliver electric currents into the deepest recesses of the body where traditional surgery sometimes fails. Transcranial magnetic stimulation, TMS, was developed in the late 1980s when neurologists discovered that a coil placed near the scalp could generate a high-intensity magnetic field that penetrates the skull, inducing electric currents in the cortex to selectively stimulate or inhibit neurons. In clinical centers treating drug-resistant depression, patients undergo daily sessions for several weeks. The TMS device emits 10 to 20 Hz pulses directed at the left prefrontal cortex, responsible for mood regulation. A soft, rhythmic click sounds as each pulse fires. Patients feel a slight tapping sensation, and gradually their severe depressive symptoms begin to ease, hope returning with each breath. Not only TMS, but deep brain stimulation, DBS, marked another turning point. In 1987, Dr. Antonio Benabid implanted stimulating electrodes into the subthalamic nucleus of Parkinson's patients, delivering 3 to 5 V pulses at 130 Hz to suppress overactive basal ganglia, causing tremor and rigidity. The implanted neuromodulator, matchbox-sized, was placed under the clavicle, its fine electrodes threaded into the brain through a small burr hole. Patients awoke from anesthesia to find their tremors nearly gone and muscle tone restored, their eyes alight with joy at regaining delicate movements once lost. DBS was later extended to treat obsessive-compulsive disorder, treatment-resistant depression, and severe mood disorders, proving the power to reprogram the brain electrically. In oncology, electrochemotherapy and short-pulse electroporation help chemotherapy drugs penetrate tumor cells deeply. At Rigshospitalet in Denmark, Dr. Franson used 1 kV C&M pulses lasting microseconds to create temporary pores in cell membranes, allowing bleomycin or cisplatin to enter maximally without harming surrounding healthy tissue. Patients with skin, breast, or liver tumors undergo smaller surgeries, lower treatment costs, prolonged efficacy, and significantly reduced recurrence rates compared with conventional chemotherapy. Bioelectricity has even reached neuromuscular rehabilitation after spinal cord injury. Researchers at UCLA employ epidural electrical stimulation, EES, placing a thin electrode array on the dura mater of the spinal cord, delivering 2 to 10 V pulses at tens of hertz to evoke muscle reflexes. Patients paralyzed from severe injuries combine EES with physical therapy. They gradually contract leg muscles, stand with support, and even take a few steps, an unprecedented medical feat that once seemed pure science fiction. In the modern operating room, the electrosurgical knife is indispensable. High-frequency currents, 300 kHz Q3 MHz, pass through a carbon-coated alloy blade, cutting tissue while instantly coagulating blood vessels to minimize bleeding. Surgical robots like the Da Vinci system master this art further. Electromechanical arms wield the electrosurgical pencil with millimetric precision under 3D magnified 4K visualization, making prostate, breast, and minimally invasive cardiac surgeries safer and faster to recover from. We must also mention bioelectronic implants such as implantable cardioverter defibrillators, ICDs, adaptive pacemakers that adjust automatically to activity, and anti-tachycardia pacing devices. These microchips integrate sensors to monitor tissue temperature, cardiac voltage, and intracardiac pressure, continuously exchanging data with smartphones or hospital centers via low-power radio so physicians can remotely adjust settings and monitor patients 24/7. Building on this foundation, advanced technologies like electrical stimulation of stem cells are now in lab and clinical trials. Weak fields of 0.11 VCM stimulate mesenchymal stem cells in 3D culture to differentiate into neurons, cardiomyocytes, or osteoblasts, offering the prospect of regenerating damaged heart tissue, healing complex fractures, or restoring neurons killed by stroke. All these advances show that electric power, from light to mechanical force, has penetrated the very essence of biology and human life. Electric currents not only revive failing hearts, repair paralyzed spines, and banish pain, but also awaken the latent regenerative potential in every cell. As you close your eyes, you can hear the click of TMS, the steady hum of electrosurgery in the operating theater, and the steadfast beat paced by an implanted device, melding into a redemptive chorus of bioelectrical medicine. Soon we will step beyond the hospital, exploring the world of microcircuits and biosensors powered by voltage, enabling real-time health monitoring through skin, blood, and waves, proving that healthcare has become an unending journey powered by the loving pulse of electricity. When humanity took its first bold strides in surgery and bioelectric therapies, we continued to shrink voltage and current down to microscopic scales, placing them on the skin, mixing them with blood, and weaving them throughout the body to monitor and manage health in real time. Bioelectronic medicine and wearable sensors have turned the human body into an open system, where a continuous flow of biological data streams to central hubs, empowering physicians and users alike to adjust lifestyles, detect diseases early, and maintain proactive wellness. On the wrist, a smartwatch with an embedded ECG sensor records every P, QRS, and T wave each time the heart beats. If it detects an arrhythmia above 120 or below 50 beats per minute, the device automatically alerts the wearer's phone via Bluetooth and vibrates to suggest rest or medical attention. Its flexible graphene-based printed circuitry clings to the skin like a second layer, causing no irritation. Its miniature battery recharges wirelessly, running uninterrupted for weeks without removal. In every bead of sweat on the forehead during a run, a biosensor analyzes lactate, pH, and electrolytes, wirelessly transmitting data to a smartphone app to gauge muscle stress and electrolyte balance. If blood pH dips below 7.35, the app warns of acid-base imbalance. If lactate exceeds 4 millimoles L, it suggests reducing exercise intensity and replenishing fluids and minerals. Meanwhile, built-in accelerometers track skin temperature and breathing rate, estimating calories burned and sleep quality to help users optimize habits. Beyond the skin, intravascular catheters house microscale pressure sensors, MEMS, only tens of microns wide. Placed under the arm's skin, these continuously measure systolic and diastolic pressure swings, detecting silent hypertension early. Microvolt-level signals are amplified by onboard ASICs, processed and sent over Bluetooth Low Energy to a phone or remote clinic. Physicians can review hourly blood pressure charts, tweak antihypertensive dosages or diet in time, and avert strokes or heart attacks. In care wards, Smart bed sheets with capacitive arrays monitor patient skin temperature and moisture 24/7. If body temperature exceeds 38 degrees C, nurses are immediately alerted. If skin becomes too dry or damp from nighttime sweating, the sheet commands the HVAC and exhaust fans to maintain comfort, reducing pressure ulcer risk. For immobile patients, the sheet integrates with pneumatic actuators to gently shift body regions on a schedule, relieving pressure and adjusting humidity to prevent ulcers and infections. The latest breakthrough in biolabs is the electrostem cell bioreactor, where microcurrents coax stem cells to differentiate into lung cells. A 60 Hz AC field at just 0.5 VC-sim is applied across a 3D scaffold of mesenchymal stem cells, triggering surfactant gene expression, the crucial precursor to functional alveolar cells. In rodent trials, lungs regenerated 40% faster than with traditional methods, offering hope for treating chronic lung diseases like cystic fibrosis and acute respiratory distress. Even drugs are being electrified. Electroconductive polymer nanocapsules release medication on demand. For preoperative analgesia, a miniaturized external stimulator sends pulses to implanted capsules, opening molecular gates that dump painkillers into the bloodstream. When analgesia is no longer needed, the pulses cease and the capsules lock, preventing overdose and minimizing liver and kidney side effects. On the road to remote healthcare, virtual clinics pair EEG headbands and ear-worn ECG monitors, letting doctors prescribe treatments at a distance. Patients don the wearable, launch a telemedicine app, join a video consultation, and stream real-time electrophysiological data. 5G and edge computing ensure ultra-low latency and high bandwidth, so clinicians receive precise, digitized signals and can diagnose instantly. From the first lightning spark that made a frog's leg twitch to graphene circuits on the skin, from subcutaneous pacemakers to intravascular pressure sensors, electrical currents have become unceasing beacons of hope. When you listen to your heartbeat through headphones or watch your electrophysiological charts dance on a smartphone, you realize that health is no longer a cabinet of mysterious pills, but an ongoing dialogue between body and electricity, between humanity and science, a living symphony of bioelectrical life. Chapter 6. When Electric Currents Tell the World Stories. When night fell and the heartbeats echoed again in Samuel Morse's Baltimore laboratory, Morse painstakingly tested dragging a several hundred-meter copper wire from the telegraph key to a levered pen on an ink-saturated cardboard. In 1844, from Washington to Baltimore, the message, "What hath God wrought?" was encoded into dots and dashes, sent along the wire, then traced gently by the pen on paper. That was the dawn of the telegraph era, when a potential difference of just a few dozen volts became a language spanning space, outpacing human travel by tens of hours. Over the next decades, millions of miles of telegraph wire crossed oceans and continents. In Paris, Berlin, and Tokyo, telegraph stations bustled with couriers, their intermittent beep-beep signals linking governments, businesses, and families. Whenever an urgent dispatch arrived, a postal worker would hasten to deliver the printed telegram by hand, ushering in instant news and helping forge a global press that shrank the distance between civilizations. However, telegraph poles could not reach remote mountains or vast oceans. In 1895, Guglielmo Marconi successfully tested radio waves across the English Channel. No wires required. Radio signals soared through fog and sea spray. The first broadcast, Hello America, sent from Cornwall, England, was received in Newfoundland, Canada, heralding the wireless era. Radio quickly conquered ships, armies, rescue teams, and entertainment. News bulletins, comedic plays, and Dixieland jazz poured from antennas, captivating millions tuned to the electromagnetic waves. Earlier, in 1876, Alexander Graham Bell transmitted the first voice message. "Mr. Watson, come here. I want to see you," over an electric wire from his Boston lab to the next room. A human voice emerged, choked with wonder, as voltage became audible sound, bringing the distant suddenly near. From that moment, the telephone swiftly spread through cities and then into the countryside. Every call, long or short, shared a life event, an expression of love, or a plea for help. Entering the 20th century, rotary dial phones gave way to touch tone, and eventually fixed lines yielded to mobile phones. When Motorola introduced the bulky Dynatac in 1983, calls lasted only minutes before the battery died. But by century's end, compact GSM handsets with color screens and SMS had become primary communication tools. Small RF voltages and logic circuits carrying voice and text across the invisible ether. Not content with voice, the world moved into images and data with electronic television. In 1927, Philo Farnsworth transmitted the first live image electrically, from a simple floating pen outline to a human face, as currents encoding brightness painted the scene onto a mercury-coated screen like magic. When John Logie Baird's mechanical television flickered ghostly figures, and later cathode ray tube, CRT, sets matured, every household could watch news, movies, and sports in their living room. Direct current in the electron beam circuits and scan drive deflected the beam to redraw each frame 25 times per second, bringing the world to life in an endless play. By the late 20th century, with the rise of the Internet, voltage and data merged. Dial-up modems used telephone lines and high-frequency tones to carry TCP/IP packets. Then, fiber optic cables carried laser light. Voltage transformed into pulses of photons down glass fibers at gigabits per second. Wi-Fi networks radiated 2.4 GHz and 5 GHz microwaves into every cafe and apartment. Invisible packets coursed through routers, switches, and servers to appear on smartphone and computer screens as emails, live streams, or high-definition video calls. Social networks, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, became global forums. Each like and share encoded into bits, carried by stable voltages and photonic electronic controllers. Electricity made the world as connected as a colossal home, where every voice, image, economic datum, and cultural artifact flows over wires and wireless waves to form a perpetual global symphony. We realize that electric currents not only illuminate and power machines, but also tell stories, convey emotion and knowledge, and erase geographic and temporal distances. Next, we will explore the evolution of electronic computers, from ENIAC and UNIVAC to supercomputers and cloud computing, to see how the principle of voltage underpins computational power and artificial intelligence in the new era. When the glowing vacuum tubes first flickered to life in the darkened Moore School laboratory at the University of Pennsylvania, 18,000 light bulbs illuminated ENIAC, the world's first programmable digital electronic computer. Weighing 30 tons, with 1,800 copper relay contacts, thousands of inductors and capacitors, ENIAC consumed 150 kilowatts of power, causing the floor to tremble each time its main switch was thrown. The first engineers and programmers, 6 women mathematicians known as the switchboard operators, ran between control panels, rewiring and resetting fuses to load artillery trajectory programs. As ENIAC powered up, neon lamps blinked in rapid succession, and early semiconductor relays clicked like a mechanical chorus in a science fiction drama. Powerful currents, 200 to 300 V across its modules, flowed not only through logic circuits, but also through humanity's dream of reaching space and unlocking the cosmos. Just 3 years later, UNIVAC I, the first commercial computer, debuted, featuring early solid-state circuitry, magnetic tape storage, and mercury delay line memory that used electrically heated tubes for temporary data. Weighing 13 tons, it used 120 VAC for its power supply and 6 VDC for its simple TTL logic, yet it processed census data and correctly predicted the 1952 U.S. election results before newspapers could print them. Tech entrepreneurs and governments recognized that electric computers could not only calculate but also analyze massive data sets, sparking the fields of computer science and data analytics. By the late 1960s, transistors and integrated circuits, ICs, supplanted vacuum tubes. IBM's System/360 and DEC's PDP-11 epitomized the mini-computer and mainframe eras. TTL and later CMOS chips, running at 5V, then 3.3V, shrank machines while slashing power consumption from kilowatts to watts and milliwatts, allowing labs, universities, and businesses to install computers in offices instead of dedicated rack rooms. Quiet cooling fans and blinking status LEDs on motherboards painted a digital landscape that inspired a generation of young technologists. The 1980s and 90s witnessed the personal computer boom. Apple II, IBM PC, motherboards using ISA, then PCI buses, CPUs operating at 5V, then down to 3.3V and 1.8V, and SDRAM drawing only a few watts. Falling prices and rising performance made PCs indispensable. Lower voltages were safer for consumers, ATX power supplies automated startup and shutdown, and CPU fans throttled to temperature, all creating a friendly, convenient home computing environment. As the Internet spread worldwide, servers and data centers multiplied, replacing massive mainframes. Cloud computing warehouses filled with thousands of server racks, each rack drawing tens of kilowatts, ran on 48V distribution, stepped down to 12V and 5V for motherboard rails. Redundant UPS and diesel generators, ultrasonic fans, and liquid cooling systems kept temperatures at 20 to 25 degrees T. With virtualization, each server hosted hundreds of VMs and containers, sharing resources fluidly. End users simply opened a browser to tap into vast resources without worrying about underlying voltages or power consumption. Today, computing power is distributed from edge to core. IoT devices on ARM chips running at 1.2V and drawing mere hundreds of milliwatts, to HPC supercomputers like Summit, Fugaku, and Frontier, with millions of CPU and GPU cores, fed by 400 kV grid supplies, stepped down through 12 kV substations to 12 V EPS modules and 1.1 VVRMs on circuit boards. Researchers simulating weather, space, molecular biology, and AI, where voltage pulses drive millions of parallel operations per second, are pushing human capability to its limit. They build private power networks, integrate renewables, and optimize PUE to reduce losses and carbon footprints. Thus, from ENIAC's thousands of vacuum tubes to the smartphone in your hand, from UNIVAC's magnetic tapes to today's AI supercomputers training GPT models, the journey of voltage has shrunk and delivered power into every corner of the digital world. When the words smart grid flash across screens, humanity realizes that the traditional power network has evolved into an automated, intelligent, two-way system. Electricity not only flows from power plants to consumers, but can also be fed back from rooftop solar panels, home battery storage, and even parked electric vehicles in the garage. Advanced Metering Infrastructure, AMI, at each medium voltage substation collects real-time data on voltage, power, and fault frequency. Predictive load forecasting algorithms, combined with centralized and distributed storage, automatically route current along the lowest loss paths, ensuring stable voltage and network safety. When a major storm topples a distant transmission tower, the rest of the grid automatically redistributes load, switches into microgrid mode, and keeps hospitals, water pumps, and EV chargers running. Electric vehicles, EVs, have become the primary urban transport. When a driver plugs into a DC fast charger, a high-power inverter feeds 400 VDC from the grid into the car's 800 V battery. When configured for vehicle-to-grid, V2G, the EV becomes a backup source, supplying 220 VAC back to the grid during peak hours and drawing power again when demand falls. The vehicle's battery management system, BMS, and charging station exchange data via OCPP, deciding when to discharge and when to recharge, optimizing battery life while supporting grid balance. Streets thus become mobile energy networks, with countless giant batteries on four wheels, both drawing and feeding power. The Internet of Things, IoT, has turned billions of devices into the eyes, ears, and hands of the smart grid and smart city. Voltage and current sensors on home distribution boxes, streetlight poles, and small substations detect leaks, measure losses, and alert on overloads. Smart meters, environmental sensors, water pumps, streetlights, traffic cameras, all connect via LPWAN or 5G, automatically switching and adjusting power based on time of use rates and weather conditions. With edge computing, data is processed close to its source, reducing latency and improving responsiveness. When a storm arrives, flood pumps self-activate, traffic lights give priority to ambulances, and danger zones are automatically de-energized. In the digital realm, the metaverse not only demands 3D imagery, but also voltage infrastructure, from data centers consuming hundreds of kilowatts for GPU rendering to VR/AR headsets drawing just a few watts. When you enter a virtual meeting room streamed over 5G, your AR headset continuously sends and receives low-voltage signals via USB-C or wireless Qi, while cloud servers render the virtual world in milliseconds. Tiny currents in personal devices connect to hundreds of kilowatts in the data center, filling virtual spaces with images, sound, and haptic feedback. Future homes will abandon traditional outlets and switches for variable voltage interfaces, multi-touch wall panels that both toggle lights and display energy status, floors and ceilings embedded with heating and cooling circuits, adjusting temperatures via low-power inverters, household robots powered by lithium-ion batteries, autonomously docking to wireless chargers. Every gesture and voice command converts into electrical pulses and voltages controlling motors, sensors, and LEDs, all harmonized into a gentle electric symphony. With the electrification of industry and transport, demand for renewables surges: offshore wind, floating solar, grid-scale storage. Megawatt-class inverters handling up to 1,500 VDC inputs are under development to minimize transmission losses. Supercapacitors and solid-state batteries promise faster charging and longer lifespans. Green hydrogen produced by water electrolysis powered by renewables offers long-term storage. Electricity will not only reach every outlet and sensor, but will also weave together energy sources across the planet into a sustainable ecosystem. From Morse's copper wires to the smart grid, from ENIAC to the metaverse, voltage and current remain the lifeblood of civilization. As you close your eyes before sleep, imagine those invisible currents dancing around the globe, illuminating, connecting, controlling, and regenerating, so that when you awaken tomorrow, the world continues to shine under the glow and pulse of electric power. Chapter 7. The First Electric Vehicles. When electricity had conquered the night and spread across streets, people soon realized that electric current could also haul multi-ton vehicles, turning the iron horse mobile without steam or coal. In 1879, in Berlin, inventor Werner von Siemens launched his homemade electric car, a small chassis fitted with an electric motor and lead-acid batteries. As it rolled along a short test track, the silence of the electric motor astonished onlookers. No smoke, no odor, only the gentle clatter of the drive and the metallic wheels on the rails. This was the beginning of the electric traction era, in which buses, streetcars, and subways would gradually become the lifeblood of passenger transport. Less than 5 years later, in 1884, Siemens installed a 2.5-kilometer commercial tram line in Lichterfelde, near Berlin, linking the railway station to the town center. A 3-car tram set carrying 10-15 passengers per car ran on 180 VDC, supplied by an overhead conductor from a small roadside substation. Locals marveled on their first rides. One light flick of an interior switch, the electric motor started, the wheels moved smoothly, and a journey that would once have been a tiring walk was completed in minutes. "Electric trams are the future," wrote the local paper. "A clean, smoke-free, and quiet future." In London, by 1890, streetcars ran more easily on rails using the third rail system, a narrow copper bar carrying 500 VDC placed between the two running rails, contacted by a pickup shoe under the car. This design saved space on congested streets and eliminated overhead wires, at the cost of requiring special collector shoes to scrape the current. Thanks to the third rail, London opened the world's first underground electric railway, the City and South London Railway in 1890, which had originally run on steam but converted fully to electricity within a year to reduce smoke, increase speed, and improve safety. In the United States, cities from New York to San Francisco raced to install electric streetcar networks. In 1888, Richmond, Virginia, inaugurated the Richmond Union Passenger Railway, the first system to adopt an overhead line with a trolley pole on the car roof delivering 500 VDC. The line stretched over 16 kilometers of city streets, replacing the clatter of horse-drawn trams and hoofbeats on cobblestones, giving passengers a smooth, almost dreamlike ride. Millions of passengers rode the electric tram each year, prompting designers to innovate with more comfortable seats, clear glass windows, and onboard lighting, all powered by that invisible energy. Around the same time, the electric trolleybus appeared in Berlin in 1882, using two overhead conductors to supply symmetric DC current, allowing flexible routing on roads without rails. Though early systems faced challenges with collector contact and friction, by the late 1920s, many European cities turned to trolleybuses to replace horse trams and fixed-rail streetcars when route flexibility was required. Trolleybuses offered the advantage of quiet, emission-free operation and could stop at any designated point. Meanwhile, national railways also began electrifying. In 1903, the Salzburg-Berchtesgaden Railway, Austria-Germany, inaugurated electric traction at 15 kV AC, the first high-voltage AC system applied to rail. This allowed powerful electric locomotives to conquer mountain passes, saving on fuel costs and reducing pollution. Following its success, Russia, Switzerland, and France quickly electrified their mountain routes, sending trains climbing the Alps or running past Montreux's castle like steel and electric dreams in motion. By the mid-20th century, Japan's high-speed Shinkansen debuted. In 1964, the Tokaido Shinkansen opened, using a 25 kV AC overhead grid and standard gauge track to run at 210 kmh. Synchronous motors and thyristor inverters converted AC to precise DC control of torque, providing a stable, smooth, and safe ride. Sleek bullet trains sped through mountains and cities, linking Tokyo and Osaka in under 3 hours, a testament to the power of electricity ruling modern velocity. The journey from Siemens's tiny electric carriage to the Shinkansen spans over a century of innovations, from overhead trolley lines and underground conduits to concealed third rails, from 500 V and 750 V DC systems to 15 kV and 25 kV AC, from simple brushed motors to brushless drives and advanced inverters. Each step reflects the extraordinary efforts of engineers, workers, and transport planners to provide people with fast, clean, and reliable mobility, all thanks to the invisible power of electric current. On the vast ocean surface, as the day's last sunset ripples across silver waves, shipyards have begun launching container vessels and yachts powered entirely by electricity. In the early 21st century, Norway's MS Ellen led the way with a 4.3 mW electric propulsion system and large 4.3 mWh lithium-ion batteries integrated into her deck, able to run a 22 nautical mile route on a single charge. No smoke, no noise, only cool water vapor trailing behind. Offshore wind farms feed power into submerged charging stations in the harbor, turning ports into green energy hubs. At the same time, hybrid battery hydrogen vessels are being trialed. Batteries for departure, hydrogen for long-range cruising, a tangible glimpse of a fossil-free future. Beneath the ocean's surface, the research submarine Sea Squirt uses Li-ion batteries and a hydrogen fuel cell system to dive to 1,000 meters with almost zero noise, enabling silent coral reef observation, wreck rescue, and marine life surveys. No more diesel engines, no more black exhaust plumes, just steady electric currents coursing through steel hulls, driving whisper-quiet electric motors that carry people and cargo across the oceans. In the sky, the dream of electric flight has long driven aerospace engineers. Prototype electric aircraft, such as the two-seat Pipistrel Alpha Electro, with its 21 kilowatt battery, fly for 1 hour before landing at a small airfield for a rapid 80% recharge in 30 minutes. Their aerodynamic airframes, fixed wings, and 60 kilowatt electric motors require no fuel, offering a quiet, eco-friendly flying experience. Next came eVTOL, electric vertical takeoff and landing aircraft like the Lilium Jet and Joby Aviation's Air Taxi, carrying 6 to 7 passengers on 36 electric rotors along the wing, powered by advanced batteries and energy management systems. They have successfully completed 100 kilometers test flights at 200 kilometers, promising to turn major cities into personal airspace. Soon, hybrid electric aircraft will use batteries for takeoff and hydrogen-powered hybrid turbines for long-range flight, further extending range and cutting CO2 emissions. Airbus's Zero project is designing composite airframe aircraft with liquid hydrogen tanks and hydrogen fuel cells to carry 100 passengers 2,000 kilometers on nothing but water vapor exhaust, revealing a vision of fully green aviation. Under the brilliant stars, sea and sky pulse with electric power, from electric ferries skimming the water to eVTOLs soaring into the lower atmosphere. Humanity is shifting from the age of steam and oil to the age of electricity and hydrogen, where every drop of fossil fuel is replaced by electrons that produce heat, power, and silence. The journey of transporting goods, leisure travel, and emergency rescue has been redefined on the map of clean energy, not only by road, but also by sea and air, all propelled by invisible yet steadfast electric currents guiding humanity's sustainable future. As humanity gradually conquered the oceans and the skies, the dream of venturing into space became closer than ever, and once again, electric current proved the key to opening the cosmic door. In low Earth orbit, communications, climate, and research satellites all run on solar arrays. Giant silicon panels unfurled like sails, converting sunlight into a stable 28 to 120 VDC supply for processors, power converters, and heat pumps. The International Space Station, with its solar wings spanning over 250 kilometers, delivers more than 80 kilowatt to laboratories, living modules, and the precision-driven Canadarm2 robotic arm. When Earth's shadow falls, the station's lithium-ion batteries, charged by solar power during daylight, discharge to keep life support systems, docking modules, and attitude control alive. Farther out in deep space, probes employ electric thrusters such as ion and Hall effect engines, using high voltage from solar arrays to accelerate xenon ions to tens of kilometers per second. Their continuous, low-thrust acceleration paves the way for long-duration missions. NASA's Dawn spacecraft used twin-ion thrusters to visit the asteroid Vesta, then Ceres, saving chemical propellant and enabling flexible trajectory changes. ESA JAXA's Bepi-Colombo to Mercury carries 2 clusters of ion thrusters, each drawing only a few kilowatts at 400 V, yet capable of adjusting velocity, by centimeters per second over years of flight. In contrast to traditional chemical rockets, nuclear electric propulsion promises a new era: compact reactors and fuel cells generating high voltage for ion or plasma engines, allowing probes to operate for decades without refueling. Experiments like NASA's KiloPower are testing kilowatt-class uranium reactors to power heat pumps and electric thrusters on future Moon and Mars missions. On planetary surfaces, Mars rovers like Curiosity and Perseverance are perfect electric machines. Curiosity's radioisotope thermoelectric generator, RTG, converts plutonium heat into 28 VDC at a steady 110 W, running wheels, robotic arms, and cameras. Perseverance combines an RTG with lithium-ion batteries to harness sunlight during the day while ensuring operation through Martian nights and dust storms. The Ingenuity helicopter, the first electric rotorcraft on Mars, recharges its batteries via a small solar panel on its back and flies at 5-meter altitude, opening the possibility of aerial reconnaissance on other worlds. Electricity not only powers deep space probes and orbiting stations, but also fuels visions of a space elevator, a super-strong carbon tether stretching from Earth to geostationary orbit, along which high-voltage climbers ascend 36,000 kilometers using electrostatic forces and megawatt-scale power beamed through ground and orbital relay stations. As you close your eyes, imagine the solar panels continually rotating to face the sun, ion engines silently ejecting streams of ions, tiny reactors providing sustainable energy, and millions of meters of high-voltage cables weaving through a cosmic network, all together writing the next chapter of humanity's story, bringing our dream of the stars one electric step closer, until one day we might sip hot coffee in space while hearing the gentle hum of electricity in the cabin. Chapter 8: The Giant Power Plants. Lighting the World. As soon as the web of power lines covered streets and avenues, the challenge of supplying electricity on an ever larger scale became a top priority. Initially, small thermal plants burning coal or diesel acted as the heart of the system, but a few hundred kilowatts were insufficient for the exploding number of streetlights, motors, and refrigerators in a booming city. In the Niagara Gorge in 1895, George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla inaugurated the first hydroelectric plant using 5 kV AC transformers to transmit 22 kV over 20 kilometers to Buffalo. Majestic concrete spillways drove white water through Francis turbines and 500 RPM generators to produce 25 megawatt, a figure engineers once only dreamed of. Primary 5 kV, 22 kV, and secondary 110 V 220. V transformer stations in Buffalo illuminated street lamps, steel mills, and textile factories across the American Northeast, marking the shift from thermal to hydropower. Parallel to hydro, coal-fired thermal stations rapidly expanded across Europe and North America. Coal lines from the U.S. Midwest and Nottinghamshire, England, fed tiered boilers where red-hot coal burned to boil water at up to 20 atm. That steam drove vacuum Johnson turbines coupled to AC generators. Starting at $10 meters and quickly rising to 100 to 200 meters, stations like Bridgewater, England, and Edgar, U.S., supplied stable power to nearby industry, railways, and homes. Their 200-millimeter chimneys belched gray-white smoke, and fly ash stacks scattered dust across the region, yet they remained the century's backbone of power generation. By mid-20th century, massive hydro plants like Hoover Dam, U.S., 1936, with 17 units totaling 2 GWs and a 221-meter dam, harnessed Lake Mead's water to power California and Nevada. In Europe, the Itaipu Dam, Brazil-Paraguay, 1984, with 20 carbon 700 millibar units generated 14 GW, the world's largest at the time. Thousands of cubic meters of water surged through hundreds of turbines each second, the 60 Hz synchronous generators spinning like giant fans, lighting Sao Paulo and Asunción every night. While hydro and coal remained dominant, the atomic age opened a new chapter. In 1954, the Obninsk nuclear plant, USSR, began operating its AM-1 reactor at 5 MW electric output, supplying the town of Obninsk, the first civilian nuclear power station. Fission heat from uranium-235 boiled high-pressure water, driving steam turbines and 3 kV AC generators within a closed cooling loop. Since then, PWR, BWR, and CANDU reactors have sprung up across Europe, America, and Asia. From Sellafield, UK, and 3 Mile Island, USA, to Fukushima, Japan, each generating 500 to 1,200 millibar continuously, reducing reliance on coal and oil. In the latter half of the 20th century, wind and solar joined the generation mix. 50-meter-tall turbines with 20 mm composite blades driving 690 V synchronous generators, stepping up to 33 kV via inverters, first appeared on Denmark's coast, 1978. The world's first offshore wind farm at Vindeby, Denmark, 1991, with 11 450 kW turbines connected via 10 kV undersea cables, paved the way for modern offshore projects. On rooftops, 250 Volta silicon panels wired into arrays produced 30 VDC, fed into 5 kW grid tie inverters to supply 230 V50 Hz to homes, transforming the grid into a two-way network that both delivers and receives power. By the 21st century, smart power plants integrated IoT and AI, pressure, temperature, and piezoelectric sensors on turbine shafts streamed real-time data to SCADA control centers. AI forecasted demand, optimized blade pitch, and panel tilt for maximum output, predicted reservoir inflows to balance hydrothermal mixes, and automatically started combined cycle gas turbines, CCGT, when needed, bringing 100 MW online within 10 minutes using gas turbines and duct burners. The journey from the small gear-driven Niagara station to gigawatt-scale hydro-wind thermal nuclear complexes proves one truth. Electric current is not merely a technological product, but also a messenger of nature and science, channeled from water, coal, uranium, wind, and sunlight to illuminate the planet. As soon as the network of power lines spanned every street and avenue, the challenge of supplying electricity at ever larger scales became paramount. Initially, small coal or diesel-fired thermal stations acted as the heart of the system, but a few hundred kilowatts could not support the exploding number of streetlights, motors, and refrigerators in a booming city. In the Niagara Gorge in 1895, George Westinghouse and Nikola Tesla commissioned the first hydroelectric plant using 5 kV AC transformers to step up and transmit 22 kV over 20 kilometers to Buffalo. Majestic concrete spillways channeled torrential water through Francis turbines coupled to 500 RPM alternators, generating 25 megawatt, a dream figure for engineers of the day. Primary 5 kV 22 kV and secondary 110 V 220 V transformer stations in Buffalo illuminated streets, steel mills, and textile factories throughout the American Northeast at night, marking the shift from thermal to hydro generation. Alongside hydro, coal-fired stations quickly proliferated across Europe and North America. Coal trains from the U.S. Midwest and Nottinghamshire, UK, fed tiered boilers where red-hot coal burned to produce steam at up to 20 atm. That steam drove vacuum Johnson turbines connected to AC generators. Starting around 10 megawatt and soon scaling to 100-200 megawatt. Plants such as Bridgewater, UK, and Edgar, USA, supplied steady power for nearby industries, railways, and homes. Their 200-meter smokestacks belched gray-white plumes, and fly ash collectors scattered dust over the region, but they remained the century's workhorses. By mid-20th century, massive hydro dams like Hoover, USA, 1936, with 17 turbines totaling 2 gigawatts and a 221 m high dam, harnessed Lake Mead's waters to power California and Nevada. In Europe, the Itaipu Dam, Brazil-Paraguay, 1984, with 20,700 milliamp units, generated 14 GW, the world's largest output at the time. Thousands of cubic meters of water surged through hundreds of turbines each second, the 60 Hz synchronous generators revolving like giant fans, lighting Sao Paulo and Ascension each night. While hydro and coal remained dominant, the atomic age ushered in a new chapter. In 1954, the Obninsk nuclear plant, USSR, began operation with its AM-1 reactor generating 5 megawatt electric power for the town of Obninsk, the world's first civilian nuclear station. Fission heat from uranium-235 boiled high-pressure water, driving steam turbines and 3 kV alternators in a closed-loop cooling system. Since then, PWR, BWR, and CANDU reactors have risen across Europe, America, and Asia, from Sellafield, UK, and 3 Mile Island, USA, to Fukushima, Japan, each producing 1,200 megawatt continuously, reducing reliance on coal and oil. In the late 20th century, wind and solar joined the generation mix. 50-meter towers with 20 mm composite blades driving 690 V synchronous generators, stepped up to 33 kV via inverters, first appeared along Denmark's coast in 1978. The world's first offshore wind farm at Vindeby, Denmark, 1991, with 11 450 km turbines connected by 10 kV seabed cables, paved the way for modern offshore projects. On rooftops, 250 mm silicon panels wired into arrays produced 30 VDC, feeding 5 kW grid tie inverters to supply 230 V50 Hz to homes, turning the grid into a two-way network that both delivers and accepts power. By the 21st century, smart power plants had integrated IoT and AI, pressure, temperature, and piezoelectric sensors on turbine shafts streamed real-time data to SCADA control centers. AI-driven forecasts adjusted generator dispatch, optimized wind turbine blade pitch and solar panel tilt, balanced hydro reservoir levels with thermal output, and automatically started combined cycle gas turbines, to bring 100 megawatts online within 10 minutes. The journey from the small gear-driven station at Niagara to gigawatt-scale hydro-wind thermal nuclear complexes proves one truth. Electric current is not merely a technological product, but also a messenger of nature and science, transformed from water, coal, uranium, wind, and sunlight to illuminate the planet. As the 21st century's third decade unfolds, humanity stands at the threshold of a carbon-free energy age, where solid-state batteries, green hydrogen electrolysis, and global electrification converge to eliminate fossil fuels entirely. Solid-state batteries, replacing liquid electrolytes with solid ones, offer twice the energy density of lithium-ion cells, absolute safety against thermal runaway, and lifespans exceeding 10,000 charge cycles. Once mass-produced, EVs will travel 1,000 kilometers on a single charge, and delivery drones will fly for hours without refueling. Simultaneously, water electrolysis powered by renewables has become the primary method for green hydrogen production. Megawatt-scale electrolyzer stacks operating at 1.8, 2.2 V per cell split H2O into H2 and O2 using high-pressure proton exchange membranes, PEM, with efficiencies above 80%. The hydrogen is stored under pressure or liquefied for use in combined cycle gas turbines, power to gas, heavy buses, large ships, and even in the steel and cement industries, which have historically been the largest fossil fuel consumers. When the world can produce green hydrogen at costs comparable to coal, the economy will fully transition to a closed-loop carbon cycle, capturing CO2 emissions from factories and converting them back into methane via the Sabatier process, then feeding it into the gas grid for heating, completing a clean carbon loop. To manage this complex energy flow, the global grid is integrating blockchain and AI-driven digital twins. Every generation asset, from rooftop solar panels to offshore wind farms, is digitally mirrored in a digital twin that forecasts output, component health, and weather risks. Blockchain records every peer-to-peer energy transaction, tokenizing kilowatt-hours into green energy credits that trade instantly without intermediaries. When a city's demand surges, smart contracts automatically dispatch household batteries or microelectrolyzers to supply power, then reconcile the corresponding CO2 reductions seamlessly. Meanwhile, a global electrification strategy accelerates. Road, rail, sea, and air transport convert entirely to electric or electric hydrogen hybrids. The cement and steel industries shift to electric arc furnaces instead of coal. Agriculture adopts electric tractors and IoT sensors for precision fertilization and irrigation, cutting nitrogen emissions. On each continent, utilities and governments collaborate on supergrids, HVDC superconducting cables spanning continents, North Sea wind delivered to Southern Europe, Sahara solar to Europe, Canadian hydropower linked to Texas wind, China's solar grid connected to Myanmar wind and Nepal hydropower. Each high-voltage DC link at hundreds of kV or even MV experiences losses under 5% over thousands of kilometers. As you close your eyes before sleep, imagine a world where every electron is born from renewables, every joule of electricity is intelligently routed, and every product and service is measured by its carbon footprint. Hear the faint hum of wind turbines blending with the invisible click of blockchain transactions, fading into the soft glow of smart LEDs, all pointing toward a sustainable future in which electricity not only lights and powers our machines, but also heals the planet, bridging science and nature, and carrying us from today into a carbon-free tomorrow. Chapter 9. Electric Power and the Ascension of Humanity. When the final currents reached every home, every classroom, every village, humanity awoke to a new reality. Electric power was not only a resource, but a catalyst for creativity, communication, learning, and collaboration. Farmers, who once plowed and harvested by the cycles of the sun, scholars, who once studied by the dim glow of oil lamps, artists, who once performed only by day or under flickering gaslight, all had seen their limits shattered by the flip of an electric switch. Education dawned as an eternal sunrise. Classrooms lit by anti-glare LED lights, interactive electronic whiteboards connected to the internet, live lectures from Harvard or Lomonosov streaming over fiber optics. Students in remote regions could solve integral calculus at night, interact with teachers via webcam, and share documents and exercises through cloud platforms. With digital learning tools and interactive boards as the norm, intellectual capacity was no longer constrained by geography or local conditions. Collective intelligence was linked and spread to every corner of the globe. In the economy, fully electrified, AI-supervised factories ran robots 24/7. Supply chains were optimized with voltage sensors and RFID tracking, following goods from production to consumer. Stock markets ran on supercomputers and high-frequency trading. Each buy or sell order matched in microseconds with ultra-low latency power and data networks. Today's tech startups need only a few virtual servers in the cloud, a few lines of code, and on-site renewable power to launch a global service in hours. Entertainment entered the electronic age. IMAX 3D theaters, Dolby Atmos surround sound, automated color-changing stage lights, giant LED backdrops, all synchronized by digital audio light controllers. Live concerts, online performances, and esports drew millions worldwide, enabled by broadband connections and stable power. Streaming platforms delivered films, music, and audiobooks without limit, letting viewers enjoy art on smartphones or smart TVs. Public health was elevated by the e-hospital. Electronic health records on blockchain, remote video consultations supported by IoT data, CT and MRI scanners running around the clock, surgical robots and electromechanical arms assisting microsurgery. Vaccinations, lab tests, and medication management were tracked via barcodes and RFID, ensuring a secure cold chain and effective treatment. Geography no longer prevented saving lives. Silent electric ambulances transported patients swiftly to care. Smart farming leveraged soil moisture, pH, temperature sensors, and high-intensity LED lights simulating solar cycles, driving automated drip irrigation and fertilizing drones. Every hectare was monitored by satellite and IoT, yields doubled, water and pesticide use dropped by 70%. Food was produced sustainably, nutrients preserved, and greenhouse emissions minimized to meet a growing global population. A global community awoke from millennia of slumber within the confines of day-night and distance time. Electric power had turned humanity's thirst for knowledge, communication, creativity, and survival into an unending reality. As you close your eyes and drift off, feel the city's pulse. Streetlights shimmering, electric trains gliding smoothly, water pumps whispering, 5G networks responding instantly. all weaving together a dream of a future where each electron carries not only energy, but also the hopes and intelligence of humankind. When humanity had fully harnessed essential applications, electric power began to serve as the foundation for cultural interplay and infinite creative space. Smart cities convened artistic lighting. The glass facades of skyscrapers became giant canvases where light artists performed video mapping shows, projecting dynamic imagery that pulsed in time with music. Passers-by paused to watch swirling trails of color as if living inside a colossal painting. Visitors then stepped into 24/7 digital museums without limits, donning AR/VR headsets to experience virtual exhibitions. Every sculpture, painting, or ancient artifact appeared in high resolution, illuminated by cool LED fixtures calibrated to preserve original hues. They interacted with 3D models, zooming into fine details, listening to automated audio guides, and purchasing NFT replicas within the virtual space, a fusion of traditional cultural heritage and cutting-edge electronic technology. Electronic music became the backbone of contemporary festivals. DJs worked USB-powered mixers and MIDI controllers with 48V phantom power, feeding multi-kilowatt line array speaker systems that drew tens of thousands under laser beams and strobe lights flashing to the beat. Immersive 360-degree surround sound, combined with RGBW lighting, controlled via DMX, created surreal concert environments. Electricity dancing alongside the music, engaging both sight and sound. In cinema, 4K laser theaters rely on ultra-stable power supplies to drive low-output laser diodes onto phosphor-coated ceramic screens, delivering dazzling color, infinite contrast, and virtually unlimited lamp life. Meanwhile, global streaming platforms deploy CDN servers near population centers, interconnected by 400 Gbps fiber and backed by 48 VUPS systems to ensure zero interruptions, so viewers from New York to Tokyo can enjoy theater-quality screenings at home around the clock. Fashion runways transformed as LED strips and curved OLED backdrops enveloped models, turning them into living artworks. Kinect and LiDAR sensors captured their movements, processed on 12 vCPU GPU rails, generating optical illusions at their feet. Networked runway floors streamed AR live streams to smartphones, allowing remote audiences to examine fabric textures under specialized lighting as if standing front row. Even classical arts education embraced hybrid electronic instruments. Grand pianos fitted with pickups and 9V preamps, acoustic guitars equipped with piezo pickups and 5V preamps, and electric violins with integrated preamps enabled performers to adjust EQ, reverb, and looping directly on their instruments. They performed on live TV, audio routed through 48V mixers and AV over IP networks, bringing traditional music into the digital age for a global audience. Electric power thus not only illuminates, drives, and heals, but also breathes soul into culture, transforming every artwork, every melody, every dancer's step into an emotive current that spans the globe. As you close your eyes, imagine each LED glow, each laser beam, each electronic beat, weaving together a borderless cultural symphony. Electricity, humanity's common language. When electric power had merged with every heartbeat of society, the next miraculous leaps carried us beyond all limits, from 6G's promise of terabit per user bandwidth to low Earth orbit satellite constellations covering every nook of the globe, polar regions and oceans now without dead zones. Every data packet, every video call, every robot command travels on low-voltage lines through optoelectronic microcircuits in fiber and phased array antennas, bringing people closer even when they stand at opposite ends of the Earth. In biomedicine, the next frontier is the artificial lung. ECMO, extracorporeal membrane oxygenation, devices that draw O2 from high-pressure tanks filled via water electrolysis, pass blood through an oxygen exchange membrane, and return it to the patient's circulation to sustain life when the lungs fail. A centrifugal pump runs 24/7 on stable voltage, its PID controller continuously adjusting flow and pressure to let heart and lungs rest until healing occurs. In agriculture, the concept of the vertical farm has scaled up. Multi-tier racks fitted with LED arrays whose voltage-controlled spectrums simulate sunlight. Nutrient solutions pumped electrically into roots, CO2 regenerated by electrically driven greenhouse systems, an entirely closed, automated cycle. Each square meter of vertical farm can feed dozens of people while saving thousands of cubic meters of water and hectares of land. In transportation, the future awaits high-voltage maglev vacuum tube trains, vehicles gliding at over 1,000 km without wheels, levitated by electromagnetic forces between superconducting magnets and guide rails inside evacuated tubes. Electric power lightens the path and keeps passengers afloat as if flying in a vacuum tube, shrinking transcontinental distances to mere hours. And beyond, in the quest for high-temperature fusion energy, electricity plays a dual role. Large inductive coils, at tens of millions of degrees Celsius, initiate and sustain plasma, while magnetic fields in tokamaks or stellarators, shaped by precise currents, confine the fuel for the next generation of limitless clean power plants. When ITER and DEMO succeed, we will have a source of electricity not only carbon-free, but also free of long-lived radioactive waste, ushering in the era of immortal electric energy. The dream of fully electrified vertical cities, where each skyscraper generates its own power via integrated solar facades, harvests wind energy through miniature turbines, stores energy in solid-state batteries, and uses robots to manage lighting, climate control, and interiors, is no longer distant. Every building will be a clean energy factory, self-sufficient and grid-supporting, transforming urban areas into digital ecosystems where electricity and data flow through every concrete block. With all these advances, we understand that electric power is more than electrons coursing through conductors. It is the current of civilization, the adhesive of knowledge, health, economy, entertainment, and sustainable futures. As sleep descends, let your soul drift along the invisible power lines that connect every corner of the world, fueling humanity's endless journey of light, sound, wisdom, and hope. Today, each of us lights the lamps of tomorrow, writing the final chapter of electric history, and opening a new volume where the dream beyond limits begins with a softly humming current.